Welcome everybody. Let's get straight into it. I'm going to be talking about Torkoal. Very straightforward changes and buffs here, but they are very good nonetheless. Torkoal already got a huge buff in recent gens. It got Drought, so obviously I kept that. There is a bit of competition as a pure fire type with Drought. In this hack we have, let me count exactly how many pure fire types. I have notes where I plan out all the Pokemon and their types and their abilities, so I can make sure that they don't outclass one another or whatever. So there's 5 pure fire types. There's only one left. Damn, it's kind of crazy. There's only one pure fire type left to do. But yeah, of those pure fire types, 3 of them have Drought. One of them is a very fast one, which I'm not worried about. I'm not outclassing it. But Flareon is worrying because Flareon is is very tanky. It has Drought and Fluffy, and it's also relatively fast. It's kind of like almost an in-between between the offensive Drought one, like the purely offensive one, and then the purely, not the purely defensive. Torkoal is very strong, but the very tanky Torkoal. The good thing about Torkoal over Flareon is that Flareon relies on having Fluffy to be tanky physically, and then when you're using Fluffy, you obviously lose that on the Drought, the power from Drought. Torkoal has the bulk and the power from Drought at the same time, so that's definitely a huge thing in Torkoal's favor. However, I believe Fluffy is significantly bulkier than Torkoal physically, although that's only on contact moves. Torkoal can switch in on non-contact moves like Rock Slide and Earthquake and all that shit very easily, so that's awesome. Or at least easier than a Flareon could. So that's yeah, the overlap there is not a problem. Their secondary ability might seem underwhelming to most people. You might be thinking, why not something better? You know, you have Drought, and then you have just Shell Armor. Who cares about Shell Armor? Shell Armor is an incredible ability for 2 main important reasons. The first reason is if you click this little link, it'll take you, this goes for most abilities, it'll take you to a list of either moves that are affected by it or just a description of what the ability does or something like that. In this case, it shows you all of the moves that I've buffed or changed to be either 50% crit moves, which is what Ruthless Pokemon will use with the Scope Lens, or these moves, which will always crit. So being able to switch in on being able to completely stonewall those moves, you're not immune obviously, but being able to switch in on those and take much less damage is insane. These moves are extremely threatening offensively. You can't intimidate them, so there's, counterplays a lot harder. You can't battle cry, you can't drop the opponent's stats when they're using crit moves. You just have to take the hit and kill them, or use priority and kill the Pokemon. So having this Shell Armor Pokemon really allows you to counter those a lot easier. Torkoal can absolutely swallow all of these Ruthless Pokemon. So if you go to the ability guide, you can see all these Ruthless mons that have the ability Ruthless. Torkoal is a great counter to like most of these. Like he can just completely not give a shit about most of them. Obviously some of them do still have, obviously like a super effective move is still going to do a good amount of damage, but for example, Ruthless boosted Jagged Edge coming from Kabutops with Drought does probably almost one-shots you unless you're running max HP, max defense or something. Meanwhile, with Shell Armor, you could probably get away with just running max HP and you could probably tank it pretty easily because again, that critical hit will not hit. So like the move goes from 70 base power, the move goes from 158 to 70 base power. It over halves it in base power. So Shell Armor is a great ability. Not to mention, not only Ruthless Pokemon use these moves, all Pokemon use these moves. So the good thing about that is you do have access to infinite usability capsules, so you can easily switch between Drought and Shell Armor. So for some situations, you'll be running Drought, and then when you see that there's a Ruthless Pokemon or a crit move coming up, then you swap on Shell Armor real quick and use that. Another thing that Shell Armor is good for is for setup. So moves like Withdraw and Stockpile boost your defensive stats by 1, Amnesia and Honor Defense boost each separate defensive stat by 2, and then you also have Calm Mind, so like Calm Mind, Iron Defense, Morning Sun would be pretty great. And then with access to Shell Armor, you can just completely not give a shit. Torkoal also has other great utility moves. So not only does it have insane bulk now, 75, 145, 125 bulk with Morning Sun in the sun, healing it by 2/3 HP, they also have a very good defensive trait list because under Drought, Torkoal only has 2 weaknesses to Ground and Rock, assuming that the sun is up. Meanwhile, he resists Fire, Grass, Ice, Fairy, Steel, and Bug. Pure Fire type is genuinely a good defensive type. If you watch the Arcanine video, you'll know what I'm talking about, and Flareon as well. It's just it's Magmar, etc. Those are all like pretty bulky Pure Fire types that have their own little traits. Magmar runs a Violet, Flareon is Fluffy, as an option. Arcanine has Intimidate and Stamina, that kind of thing. Torkoal here has great abilities on its own. It's just a really fucking solid Pokemon. I mean, it's a solid tank. It can take so many hits. It's really bulky. It can heal itself. It has great coverage. I did give it access to Scald to use on Shell Armor sets, which is pretty sweet. Scorch and Ember had Scald, so I figured why not give it to a couple of fire types. I think it's kind of cool. I considered even giving it to Camerupt, but Camerupt is running Sun 2/3 of the time, because only one of its abilities out of the 4 abilities it has are not related to the Sunlight, being Berserk on base Camerupt. So I opted not to give it Scald. But regardless, yeah, Torkoal has some great utility also with stuff like Parting Shot. A tanky Parting Shot Pokemon here is insane. Again, switching this motherfucker in and then just Parting Shotting out is great. You have T-Spikes, you have Will-O-Wisp, you have you know, all those setup moves. You have Yawn, you have Clear Smog, which is great to stop setup and stuff in this hack. You can just switch in on a Pokemon that is like really boosting itself up, and you can just Clear Smog them. You also have Smog, which will always poison. Yeah, lots of great utility. Fire Spin will trap them. You have lots of another thing is Torkoal is not just a defensive Pokemon. It has 100 base special attack with Drought. That's insanely strong. It's really powerful. Even with 0 investment, you can run max HP, max defense, or max Dev, and you're still like taking hits with ease. Sorry, you're still dealing damage. Excuse me. Obviously, you're taking hits with ease with investment. But yeah, you also have really good coverage moves. So Earth Power, Power Gem, Clear Smog, Belch, Sludge Bomb, Scald, Focus Blast, Solar Beam, Energy Ball, Flash Cannon. All those moves are buffed or changed. Another thing, by the way, I'm going to mention is if you are new here, definitely make sure you consider subscribing. That would be very helpful for me. And in the description down below, you can find a very detailed Google Sheet where you can see all of these buffs and changes for yourself to all of these Pokemon. And you can see the most important part, which is the move guide, in my opinion, because that has all of the move buffs and changes listed on it. And there are a lot of those. So definitely give that a look if you are new here. That would be very helpful. Also, if you haven't done that already and you're returning, definitely make sure you check that out. Yeah, back on topic with Torkoal, it's got a lot of really other good stuff. So again, that Morning Sun is incredible with Drought, and then you swap that ability capsule, and now you got Shell Armor. For specific fights, obviously it's still situational, but it's still a great ability. So you can either use that to sweep certain trainers, or rather, I guess you could say just withstand them, because you can guarantee you won't get crit through your boosts. So you can use Stockpile sets or Amnesia or Iron Defense sets and just not get crit. I know I said that earlier, but that is really a good tool to have. Also, Nature Power is pretty cool under Electric Terrain or Psychic Terrain or Misty Terrain. You get Moonblast, Psychic, or Thunderbolt, which are all two of those 3 moves are boosted by Terrain as well. So that's really cool. If you're using a Terrain team, you know, you can use like Electric Terrain Torkoal, get that Thunderbolt, or Psychic Terrain Torkoal, get that Psychic for specific situations. That's also good. But yeah, he has very powerful stab options. He has priority, special fire type priority with Ignite. That's great considering he has low speed. You know, even just Specs Ignite with Drought can be a good set. Even, you know, you don't need to worry about, you know, Specs Ignite, Drought with Solar Beam, and then 2 other moves. You know, that's also a great set. Excuse me. Belch is really cool. Belch, if you eat a berry, Belch only works if you eat a berry. However, it now has 120 base power, 100% accuracy, and it always gives you +1 special attack boosts. So that's a great tool on Torkoal. You can switch it in, you know, get that berry to trigger, click Belch, get that special attack boost, click Morning Sun, heal yourself up, especially with Drought, you know, Citrus Berry, whatever. Or you can use Pataya Berry Belch, that'd be pretty cool too, or any other berry really. And then you can just heal up, and you can actually switch out and then switch back in and keep using Belch, which is awesome. So that's a really fun move. I gave it Shell Smash and Eruption earlier on because they're not that good. Eruption's really only good in Trick Room, or like, I don't know, fucking like very specific situations. Like, I guess if you happen to get a couple Shell Smashes off, you would need to though, because 20 base speed, even at +2. Here, I'll really show you what else speed. It hits 250 speed with a neutral nature, and if you got lucky to get like a timid nature or something, not lucky, but if you did get a timid nature, for example, you're still only at 274. Oh, that's what not max heavy, sorry, you're at 304. So max speed can be decent. That's like base 100-ish. Not even. That's like base 90 something. Yeah, not even 89. So you only have speed base 89 Pokemon with max speed Shell Smash. So you're gonna need 2 of them most likely. 2 Shell Smashes or 2 Rock Polishes. But honestly, with your bulk, it's pretty easy to get 2 of those off. So That's definitely something to consider still. Not to mention that Drought support is also great. You don't even need to run him offensive or defensive. He can be purely supportive. You can just switch that motherfucker in. You can use Drought plus Parting Shot plus Heat Rock. Heat Rock now adds 6 turns, which makes Weather a lot more viable of a playstyle. So that's mostly, the buff was mostly for like Sunny Day and stuff, you know, like all, you know, Rain Dance, etc. But the Pokemon that happen to have those abilities do get a benefit of having more turns. However, you know, you are giving up an important item slot there, so it's only really if you need the sun or weather to last longer. But yeah, Heat Rock, Drought, Parting Shot out. That rhymed. You know, you can T-Spikes up, and you can Parting Shot out, and then you can just go to town with your Drought abusers if you want, whatever it may be. So yeah, it's just a great Pokemon. It's super tanky. I did give it overall just buffs all around, and then I just dropped its attack a little bit. I think that was all fitting. I think its special defense being very high fits, given that it's a giant tortoise, and also just because there was no other way to make it stand out from stuff like Flareon or Arcanine or any of the other pure fire types. But now it does. Now it's by far the tankiest of them all overall. Obviously, Flareon technically might take contact and move a little bit better with Fluffy, but then you're also not as strong. So overall, Torkoal is one of the best ones. But they're all equal. I mean, you know, Arcanine, Magmar are fast and offensive. Flareon's also pretty fast and offensive. Torkoal's offensive, but it's slow, which is not a bad thing. But yeah, they're all different. And then Typhlosion is purely offensive for the most part. And then the last one, which I think you can probably assume, it's Simisear. Okay, Simisear is the other one with Drought. Those Pokemon, those are all the pure fire types. Excuse me. There's only 5 of them. It's not too much overlap at all. Not too much competition. And Torkoal is by far the tankiest of them overall. So that's awesome. Again, as a pure fire type, that's great to have because it's a good defensive typing. You know, Morning Sun, dude. Even just Morning Sun, Drought, Sun Move, Parting Shot. Like that's Solar Beam, Pyro Plume, or whatever fire type move you want to use, and then all that stuff. It's great. Lastly, I'm going to cover some of the powerful fire type options. Shell Trap is really cool. That was originally Turtonator's move. I did buff it to 180 base power, and I made it so it always burns, no matter if they hit you with a contact move. So let me actually check. I'm pretty sure. So let's see. Yeah, it will fail. Okay, so it only works if they got hit with a physical move. Yeah, so basically I made it work like a Beak Blast, kind of. So Beak Blast and Shell Trap are similar now, in the sense, I was right, I just wanted to make sure. So Shell Trap is a 180 base power negative priority move, which doesn't matter for Torkoal because he has 20 base speed. And essentially, as long as you got hit by a physical move, not just contact, any physical move. So if they use Earthquake or any physical move whatsoever, you get the 180 base power move instantly. So say they hit you, and then as soon as they hit you, they get hit by a 180 base power fire type move with Drought up, assuming, or with Shell Armor, and then they always get burnt as well. So you can essentially use Shell Trap and then completely guaranteed burn any physical Pokemon that's attacking you. So it's awesome. Shell Trap is a great move, and that's really useful for Torkoal. Otherwise, you have Burn Up, which is a 140 base power move that can only be used once each time until you switch out, and that removes your fire typing, makes you typeless. That will also always burn, so that's 140 base power, always burns. And then Inferno is 130 base power, so it's 10 base power weaker than Burn Up, but it has 70% accuracy, and it can be used over and over again. So for example, Zoom Lens Inferno would be pretty great, because Zoom Lens is buffed to give you 30% accuracy, so 70 times 1.3 is 91, so that gives you 91% accurate Inferno. If you want to use that instead of Shell Trap or Burn Up. And then you can also use Zoom Lens plus Fire Vortex. Fire Vortex is 80% accurate, 130 base power trapping move. 85 accuracy, my bad. 85% accurate, 130 base power trapping move. So 85 to 130 won't miss anymore, I believe. Yeah. So, you know, Zoom Lens, Fire Vortex, Zoom Lens Inferno, Zoom Lens Flash Cannon, and all these other moves. That's all great. Focus Blast. You know, Zoom Lens is a very good set on Torkoal as well. Then you just have other strong moves, so Blast Burn always lowers your special attack stat by 2, and that's 150 base power. That's insane and very useful. You also can take advantage of Buffed Quick Claw with Eruption. Buffed Quick Claw, essentially Quick Claw is like a one-time use item, but it always activates. So you can swap in your Torkoal with the Drought up or with Shell Armor, and then you can click that Quick Claw Eruption and completely nuke something with priority, and then you won't lose HP, assuming that you switched in on a status move or some other move. So that's always great. Also, infinite use eject button is great with Drought as well. If you don't want to use Heat Rock, you could just switch it in, get that instant sun up, and then just go straight back into your Sun Abuser. So that's always awesome. For in-game stuff. Obviously, in competitive, infinite use eject button and all those other pivot moves would be so chaotic and stupid. I love switch moves, but yeah, in competitive, it would be so brainless. You could just parting shot every fucking turn and eject button everything into your frail ass, use tanky mounted eject button and then use your ridiculous hyper offensive frail threats and just never have to predict and just always get momentum. And it would be so stupid, but this is not how that works. This is in game. So, yeah, I think I covered everything, honestly. Just a very solid, strong, bulky, pure fire type with very good abilities and a great move pool. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. Again, if you are new here, definitely consider subscribing. That'd be very helpful for me. If you listen this far, you should totally be subscribed. Lastly, feel free to check out my other videos. Again, the link to these changes is in the Google Sheet down below. Definitely give that a look. Lastly, you can join my Discord server, talk to me in there, ask me questions, talk to the other people in there, and you can also download and play my older ROM hack in there called Bear in Black. So more information about that in my Discord server, if that interests you. So yeah, thank you so much for the support, guys, and bye.